Hey, church family, thanks for joining for today's Daily Connection video. We are looking this week at the problem of sin, and Brother Brent yesterday went ahead and looked at, hey man, temptation, sin, that doesn't come from God. And so today we're going to be looking at the effects of temptation and how it can draw us into something else. And so we're looking today at James chapter 1 and verse 14, which says, "But each person is tempted when he is drawn away and enticed by his own evil desire." This is interesting. Whenever he's talking about temptation is not something that just comes from anywhere. No, it starts with even our own evil desire. You notice he says it starts with our evil desire, our own personal flesh. If it were not for our sinful flesh, temptation would never be an issue. But the reality is, because we're born into sin, because we're sinful people, because we are people of the flesh, temptation is a thing that exists. And so as we see things that we desire, maybe it's something that we like, our flesh causes us to be tempted to go after that thing. One way to think about it is when you go fishing, man, you may put a worm or a cricket or some sort of maybe wasp larva or something. That's something that I've used in the past to go fishing, and to that fish in the water, that looks like a great meal. It's enticing. It looks like it's going to bring fulfillment to that fish. When the fish bites down, however, and if you set the hook right, it's over with for that fish. While something may have looked really good, the reality is they were hooked and they were drug away somewhere that they never intended to go. And that really is how temptation works in our lives. We see something that entices us. We see something that we want, that we think is going to bring us happiness, that we think is going to bring fulfillment. But once we jump off in there, once we give into that temptation and we jump off in there, we find out that it's going to hook us and it's going to take us somewhere that we never intended to go. And so we must, again, recognize where temptation comes from. It comes from our own flesh. But then also, as we recognize where it comes from, we need to always know the consequence of temptation. It's going to take you somewhere where you don't want to be. You may not realize it in the moment or even the immediate moment afterwards, but down the road, in the future, you will realize, okay, this temptation is taking me somewhere that I never intended to go. So we have a couple of questions that we want to look at. The first one is, when has something appealed to you but turned out to be something else? When has there been something that was appealing to you, that was enticing you, but once you got to the other side of it, it wasn't what you thought it was? And then our next question, when are we tempted to buy into the trap of sin? I think that the answer to that question is specific to each of us. When are you, there are maybe times or situations that you are tempted to buy into the trap of sin. I think it's important for us to recognize those times so we can battle against temptation in our lives, so we don't put ourselves in situations where we are tempted. I hope that you will take a real hard look at yourself, your life, the situations you find yourself tempted in, and remember that temptation can take you somewhere that you don't plan to be. And as you do that, church family, we want you to know that we love you and we're praying for you.